Good evening. It's May 7th, 2024, and I'd like to welcome you to the meeting of the South Brunswick Board of Education and call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll start with the statement of advance notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, also known as the Sunshine Law, was enacted to ensure the right of the public to advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. The primary purpose is for the board members to discuss and vote on board business. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the board secretary has caused notice of this meeting 48 hours prior, including date, time, and location, to be posted in the New South Brunswick Public Library and the office, filed with the township clerk, and communicated to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. It is also posted on the district website. Roll call, Mr. Pulowski.
Ms. Julie Ferrara.
Present.
Ms. Laura Hernandez.
Here.
Ms. Deepa Karthik. Ms. Alicia Khan.
Here.
Mr. Raja Krishna.
Present.
Mr. Mike Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Here.
Dr. Smitha Raj.
Here.
Ms. Lisa Rogers. We have a quorum.
Ms. Karthik is out of the country, and Ms. Rogers is celebrating her daughter's college graduation tonight. So congratulations, Ms. Rogers. So I need approval of the meeting agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's meeting agenda? So moved, Dr. Raj. Second, Mr. Mitchell. All in favor? Aye. The next order is the report of our student representative, Dee Fan Lee.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, my voice is a little funky today, but starting off with some news from the high school, Student Council is excited to announce that Powder Puff, our annual girls flag football game, is taking place on May 22nd. Over 200 students are participating, and the teams from each class are working hard to prepare decorations. This will be a free event to attend, but we will be collecting donations for South Brunswick's very own Hugs for Brady Foundation. Student government elections is this coming Thursday, where students will vote for individual class councils, as well as the school-wide student council. May has some upcoming spirit days, including Star Wars Day on May 8th, Red, White, and Blue Day on May 24th, and Viking Commitment Day on May 29th, where graduating students will don their outfits representing their next step after high school. The class of 2027 and class of 2025 are each hosting a Great Adventure field trip open to all students in each grade level. Junior prom will take place May 17th aboard the Cornucopia cruise ship out of Perth Amboy. SBHS Pirandolo Players Mamma Mia took place on May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th with a huge success. Robotics Club tryouts are taking place on June 3rd, 5th, and 7th at the Crossroads South Middle School cafeterias and are only open to underclassmen students. Viking Volunteers is hosting a Earn for Earth recycling drive to promote environmental awareness and sustainable projects. They will be collecting plastics in front of SPS starting Monday, May 6th to Monday, June 10th. Chess Club is hosting a district-wide chess-a-thon on Saturday, May 18th with an escape room, grandmaster, life-size chess, and more. That's all I have for you guys tonight, and everyone have a great night.
Thank you so much for your report. Next in order is the report of the president, and since she's down at Rowan University, I will report that she is celebrating at this moment with her daughter and her family. So that's it for the president report. Next up will be the report of our superintendent, Mr. Fetter.
Thank you, Madam Substitute President. All right, we have a pretty good night tonight, actually. We have 3 groups to acknowledge tonight. Our first group, looks like they're all sitting over there, and that is our PTO President's Council. These are the presidents who come every month to a meeting, and we have 2 co-presidents of the President's Council. Catherine Oliver, who I know is not here, and Deepika, I know you are here. Where are you? There you are in the back. So they're going to do a thank you for you, but I want to say thank you on my behalf. You guys are awesome, and I always say, it's like my favorite meeting. It really is. You guys are fantastic. I get good insight from you. You have good questions, and you're just awesome people. So thank you for all you do for your schools. But again, I know the principals have another plan for you, but thank you. Next group, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. If it's ever been needed, it's now. We need to be appreciating everybody. And there's not enough we're going to do. I know we're not going to ever do enough for this. But on behalf of my team, this place is nothing without all of you, without our teachers, without all of our staff, to be honest. It's just, I don't know. And we're all feeling it right now. So they're the best, and we're lucky to have them. So that's that. And I believe tomorrow is School Nurses Day. So I don't know if I saw any, did I see any nurses? Any nurses? Any nurses? Well, you're not here, but I'm going to still appreciate you and say thank you and congratulations on your Nurses Day. I know I saw Bonnie is here today, and Crossroads South Middle School, the kids won an Empowered at Home Epic Pizza Challenge. That's just cool saying that. Empowered at Home Epic Pizza Challenge. This initiative educated students about energy-saving practices they can implement in their households and allowed students to act as leaders by teaching members of their school and home various ways to save energy. Students at Crossroads South collected 932 pledges to save energy, placing them first out of 50 schools in the program. Awesome. Good job. Where's Bonnie? Where are you? There. Good job. Just a quick note, that's pretty much all I have. So a quick note that we are back in school May 24th and May 28th. That is much to the chagrin of Mother Nature. We have just Monday off on Memorial Day, but we lost our 2 budding days because of the weather this year. Hope we get them back next year. But that's pretty much my report. So thank you, and back to you, Madam Substitute President.
Well, I want to tap into that a little bit because I want to say Happy Teachers Day, week, year, century. As a teacher myself, I know what you guys go through. And I always used to say when my husband would give me a hard time about having the summers off, I would say, well, one, everybody has a decision to make. I just made a really good one. And 2, Sunday night, what are parents saying? Oh, thank God the kids have school tomorrow. So I just want to say thank you so much for all that you do. Next up, we are now recognizing the people who help us with our village, our PTO presidents. So I would like to call up Mr. Peter Ratin, the principal of Indian Fields, to the podium.
Thank you, and good evening, Board of Education, esteemed guests and South Brunswick community. I'm Peter Ratin, the principal of Indian Field School. I'm here speaking on behalf of the principals and assistant principals of South Brunswick School District. Martin Luther King Jr. asked, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Tonight, we honor those who have undoubtedly answered that question in so many ways. These individuals go above and beyond to make a difference in the lives of students and families at their child's schools and in South Brunswick. They put themselves aside, working tirelessly to instill joy and increased opportunities for so many students and families. Our schools and district are a better place because of those who serve on the PTO President's Council. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all you do. I ask that you all turn your attention to the screen for a short video.
Art show,
Science fair,
cultural night,
after school clubs.
these are just a few things you can thank our PTO for.
Thank you, Cambridge PTO presidents. We want to thank you for helping us throughout the year. We all belong. Thank you, PTO, for an amazing booster-thon. Our popsicle party and dance-a-thon was a ton of fun. We can't believe our Gaga pit's on its way. And I can't wait to see our new recess toys. So thank you, PTO!
You guys rock!
Thank you, PTO, for all you do for the Greenbrook community. We appreciate the assemblies, Gaga pits, and all the other amazing stuff you have done for us.
Thank you to our wonderful PTO president for
A great Halloween party,
a great book fair with a dress-up person, and a fun and educational math carnival.
One, two.
Thank you, Mama Junction PTO, for everything you've done for us.
I always loved reading, and winning a prize gave a lot of motivation for it.
Hi, my name is Dua, and I'm thanking the PTO for supporting our students. Hi, my name is Angelina, and I'm thanking the PTO for always inviting informative guest speakers.
Hi, my name is Ajla, and I'm thanking the PTO for supporting our guest visits for their author visit in January.
Hi, my name is Samuel, and I want to thank the PTO for the senior scholarships that our seniors receive.
Thank you, PTO.
Not sure if you caught that at the beginning, there was reference to that music. That music came out of the South Brunswick High School. When I first heard it, I just thought it was professionally done because it is professional. So kudos to the high school for that music, that beautiful music in the background. Wanted to now take a moment to invite Ms. Hernandez up to join me in presenting the PTO President's Council members, each with a student-made rose and certificate. I'm going to ask that when I call the school, that the administrator or administrators here join the PTO president or presidents up as we present the rose and their certificate. So I'm going to ask Brooks Crossing to please come on out and start standing up. From Brooks Crossing, we have co-presidents. We have Druti Choksky and Nicole DeMattia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Brunswick Acres, if you can come join us. And behind Brunswick Acres, next will be Cambridge. From Brunswick Acres, we have co-presidents Aria Nadkarni and Kelly Sanchez.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Next, we're going to represent Cambridge, and then after that, it's going to be Constable. From Cambridge, we have co-presidents Rami Lee and Elizabeth Ureko. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to recognize Constable, and then it'll be Greenbrook, followed by Indian Fields. From Constable, the president, PTO president, is Cheryl Crick. Thank you. Thank you. The PTO president from Greenbrook was unable to be here tonight, so accepting on her behalf is the principal, Jody Mahoney, for PTO president, Lisa Browning, and Lisa Rogo, the assistant principal. I'm going to recognize Indian Fields, followed by Monmouth Junction, then Crossroads, followed by the high school. Indian Fields president is Lynn Monday. I'm going to recognize Monmouth Junction co-presidents. We have Mary Ann Powell and Zunaira Tariq. Thank you so much. I'm going to recognize from Crossroads Middle Schools, both North and South, President Ina Beatty. We're going to recognize from the high school, PTO president, Deepika Chandola. And not with us in attendance tonight, please give a round of applause and thank our PTO president's council coordinator, Catherine Oliver. Thank you all for all you do for all of our students and families. You are selfless, you are courageous, you are giving. Can we all give one more round of applause for all of our PTO President's Council? That concludes our presentation. I turn it back over to Mrs. Hernandez. Excuse me. Thank you.
Just one quick thought. Deepika, as co-coordinator, I just have a quick request. After watching the slides, there's a lot of food involved. The board office would like a PTO president. We would
The
like
Board
an
of
assignee.
Education would like a PTO president.
Well, all right, next meeting, we'll take care of that.
Good? We good? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Like that old saying says, it takes a village, and you are definitely such a major part of our village, and we thank you for everything that you guys do. The next order is the public hearing of the 2024-2025 school district budget by Superintendent Feder and Business Administrator Pulowski. Please note that there will be an available time immediately following the presentation for public comment on the budget only. Thank you, Mr. Feder and Mr. Pulowski.
All right, thank you. For the people that have been watching these meetings, there's not a lot of new. There's just a lot of compressed information about this year's budget. So what we're going to go through kind of the state aid 2% cap info, the impact specifically on staffing programs and fees to families, the tax impact specifically. We're going to go over what a second question is, what it looks like in the future, what current legislation is happening, and then a time, as you heard from President Substitute Hernandez, the Q&A that parents can come up, anyone, staff, parents can come up and ask any questions they want about the budget. So here we go. And Dave's job is to keep me honest and jump in when I make mistakes.
Can I say one thing?
So, yeah.
We were sent the presentation, so we might be looking at our laptops. We don't want you to think that we're being rude and having our back to the presentation, but we have it here.
Got it. So the big question, how do we get to this point where South Brunswick, such a great district for so many years, is in financial trouble? How does that happen? I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this slide is super important to explain. So I'm going to go as fast as I can with this slide because I know most of you have seen it. If you look at 2018-19 on the top left, equalized evaluation, that is a metric used in the state funding formula. That metric talks to the evaluation of the town's property, for lack of a better term, the value of the property. If you see in 2018-19, we were in good shape. They had us at $8.6 billion. If you go across that same line, you'll see that the local fair share, which is the amount of money collected in taxes, was $110 million. And, I'm sorry, the levy was 108. The formula said we should be collecting 110. That wasn't too bad. We were minus $2 million. We were still getting money in 2018-2019. That was the last year we saw anything resembling money. Look what happens in 2019-20. This valuation goes from $8.6 billion in 1 year to $9.9 billion, a $1.3 billion increase in the town's real estate value. That threw South Brunswick into the wrong side of S2. This has nothing to do with enrollment. It has nothing to do with spending. It is purely a formula based upon the largest two metrics, evaluation and district income. If you look at the district income, there's no real change from 2018-19 to 2019-20. The significant change was the evaluation. In fact, our enrollment had barely any change at that point, maybe a 1% change at the max at that point. Going across, look what happens, and this is the crux of the formula problem. For no fault of anybody in South Brunswick, not the township, not the mayor, not the board, not David, no one, maybe David. We went from needing to collect $110 million as our local fair share overnight to the state saying, no, you should be collecting $128 million. Just imagine if the Board of Education even was able to tax that much. Let's say they had the power to do it and went out to the community and said, we need $18 million more dollars from 1 year to the next. That would have been chaos. Mass exodus of probably all the board members that were on the board at the time. No way you go up $18 million with just because the state made a formula. But that threw us from minus $2 million to minus $16 million literally overnight. And again, the important part here, there's no humans involved in this. This isn't anything anyone did except for, in our town, sale of warehouses, basically. That's basically what that shows, that the value shot up because of sales. And the things that were selling at high value back then were warehouses that were purchased originally probably in the $3 to $4 a square foot range, selling for in the $20 to $30 square foot range. So the value shot up. If you go all the way down to 24-25, which is the next school year, you'll see that from 18-19 to 24-25, we're $3 billion, almost $3 billion more. That has caused the primary problem. At the same time, our district income shot up over $500 million. $500 million. So basically, those two numbers equal almost $3.5 billion, And the formula keeps saying, you guys are not collecting enough tax. That's the problem. Collect more tax. But of course, anyone following this knows we can't just collect more tax. There's a 2% cap. So right now, the state says we should be collecting $17 million more in tax, and then we'd be okay. Not exactly the most realistic thing, but that's what's happening, and we'll talk more about that as we go. That's where we are. That's the issue. While people will say, spending, 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 it doesn't matter what you spend money on when this happens. It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. Because the town and the state, not the town, the state has a formula where the sole issue of the formula that drives the most information is these they're called wealth factors: income and equalized evaluation. At the same time, we did lose some students, which has an impact also. That's what's allowed us to survive this point, is we've reduced spending because of our students, but no way to keep up with the amount of students we've lost compared to the amount of money the state has taken. There's no way to manage those two. So as I've said for, 5 years now, we work in a deficit model. When there's a 2% cap, just think of this as basic as it gets. We're allowed to increase 2% of our spending, but it takes 4% at a minimum to roll over a budget. Simple. So we work in an always cut model. You never can keep up with a 2% cap. Since it was invented back in 2011-12, there's no way any district can. In fact, the districts that are surviving right now are because the state has given them zillions of dollars over the last 7 years. That's what's kept them afloat. Everybody can survive for a little bit of time, but S2 has made the inevitable happen faster for districts like ours. Because if you just think of the math, if you need 4% and you only have 2%, it's just a matter of time before the rubber hits the road on that. Then when you take $10 million away after that, that's what we are. That's where we are. So with no means to go above the 2% that we were able to access at the time, this whole idea was put in following the recession. That's when this all occurred. Well, not only has it not been a recession now, we're in the highest inflation since, I think, the 80s. And that's been happening since COVID. And nothing's changed. Still at 2%, even if you're at 7% inflation. Which just means if a pencil normally costs us $10,000 for all of our pencils, they now cost $10,700. So a 7% increase with only having 2%. Doesn't work. Just the math doesn't add up. So the ratables have saved the taxes. Because this town continues to grow in value, like the first slide showed, there's been there's been an impact on taxes. It's been a decrease in your taxes. Since 2019, you've seen a decrease. I'm going to show you that slide in a little bit. And we have to budget, like at home, if you want a car, and let's say you don't have the cash to buy the whole car, you get a loan from either your bank or the car. The car places are quick to give people loans on cars, and you pay it off. We can't do loans. We can spend what we have. We don't have loans, we don't have credit cards. You have to buy what you can afford. That's how it works in a school system, in a public system. So we adjust the budget based upon the revenues. The revenues are less every year, so we budget less every year. That's how it works. No mystery. This is the synopsis since 1819 of what's happened. If you look at the first column, the South Brunswick School District State Aid, back in 1819, we were receiving $24.7 million from the state. Next year, we are slated to get $14,200,000, or $10 million, almost $500,000 less. At the same time they've been taking money, we've been held to the 2% cap. So if you look at the difference, what I call the 2% cap gap, back in 1920, we needed $5 million to roll over the budget. And these are estimates on those two columns. 2% gives us about $2.5 million, leaving $2.5 million short, plus $1.15 million in state aid reduction. That means when we were doing the budget back in 1920, we were starting at minus $3.6 million. Period. Doesn't matter what anyone says about anything, that's the reality. Now, how you do that, of course, that's the work. Now, anyone in this audience will be able to say, From 1920, 2021, 21-22, and 22-23, there was zero impact to a student as a result of all of those cuts. Zero. Because for all those years, we did everything humanly possible to avoid cutting staff or impacting students. That's what we did. We did things with insurance. We did things with energy. We did preschool. We did everything humanly possible to avoid. And you've heard me say, back in 2021, the presentation says this year we won't be able to do it. This was forecasted. We saw this coming. We've been planning for this in a way that when we get to next year, we'd be able to manage the budget with as minimal impact as possible. I'm going to show you what that impact is. It ain't so minimal. Overall, from 1920 to 24-25, when you add up all of this, we are minus $30 million in how much money we should have right now going forward. That's the reality. This comment was said by multiple legislators in different ways at both the Assembly and the Senate. I've heard it over and over again. The Senate and the Assembly have acknowledged this is a funding problem, not a revenue, it's a revenue problem, not a spending problem. You can't spend what you don't have. So we cannot do what we used to do. Doesn't work. So this is the number. There's a 24-25 next year. They told us they're cutting $1.4 million. The 2% cap gap, which you now, if you didn't understand, you now understand, is about $3.4 million. And last year's budget, they gave us 2.8, a little, almost $3 million in stabilization aid for 1 year. Next year, they've only given us 1.4. So that's another $1.4 million deficit of spending we don't have going into next year's budget, which is now what this budget represents. We have to do this minus $6.2 million. And that's what this district has been feeling for the last month. We've been feeling it, anyone paying attention has been feeling it for 4 or 5 years, but it's really coming to a head now. This is next year's budget. This is what you'll be voting on, board members. A general fund of $153 million. There's a special revenue fund. David, what is a special revenue fund?
Those are all your grants from your state and federal. Your special revenue funds are all your grants from state and federal resources. Your debt service fund is your credit card payment for, or your loan payment for all of the building that you did for the high school and a couple of the projects. You have your general fund tax levy is the $124 million, and your general fund budget is $153 million, which is inclusive of your tax levy, your state aid, and your special revenues.
So the total number is 170, but the debt service, just so you understand debt service is you borrowed money, which you can only do by a referendum. I mean, we can't just borrow money. We have to go to the public and say, hey, we want to build this building. You good with that? Here's how much it's going to cost. They say yes, we build. They say no, we don't build. It's that simple. Right now, we owe $6.8 million annually on that debt. That's what we owe. But we have very good news to report on that debt coming in this future slide. We collect from the taxpayers $5.7 million of that debt. We get debt service aid from the state, which is the remainder of about $1 million. That's why we only collect $5.7 million from the town. Overall, when we talk about a 2% cap, the 2% cap is on the first number, $124 million. That's it. So it doesn't matter about all those other numbers. When we talk about taxes, we can only raise taxes 2% of $124 million. That's how this works. So that's basically our increase. Our increased revenue year over year is 2% of that tax levy number. So about 2.5 million usually is what we're looking at, somewhere around, a little less, but that's about right. Not the whole 130 million, definitely not the 170 million. Okay? So what happens when a district our size has to cut $6.2 million? This is the worst. No, it's not the worst. The worst is, of course, what's happening to humans and what will happen to kids next year. But what you can't do, what business could function never thinking about what else we could do? How do you get better? We think of, how do you get better with less money? That's not a realistic question, yet I keep asking our people to think that way. How do we do better with less? We've had some successes, but we have some failures with that too. The reality is, when you cannot think this way, it is debilitating to be in a job where you can never think about what you might do. Evelyn's experienced this. She comes from a district that had tons of money. I don't know what she was thinking when she came here. And she now finds out, she finds this good, goes to a workshop, finds this cool thing. Hey, Scott. Oh, forget it. She doesn't even finish the question because it doesn't matter what she wants. Lisa, she's not here, so I can't pick on her too much. But what she does is she sends me emails that vendors send her. Vendors want one thing from districts: to buy stuff. I delete every one. I tell her I delete them. She keeps sending them anyway. It doesn't matter. Vendors can want whatever they want. We can't deal with that. Vendors try to sell you stuff by saying, if you do this, you'll save money. I've yet to meet the product that we actually save money. We try. We do things that saves money. It's usually not from vendors. So here's the reality. This is the pain. This is the staffing impact. Hold on to your seats. Right now, for the last 2 weeks, this is what we've been doing. You want to talk about a miserable existence? This has been a miserable existence. I feel horrible for our teachers and staff. I feel horrible for our administrators delivering this news. This is the worst. 40 K-12 positions have been removed. Those are just the teaching side of things. We lost a guidance counselor. Fortunately, it wasn't an actual person gone. It was a retirement we can't replace. 5 assistant principal and supervisor positions. 6 secretary positions, a nurse. 8 paraprofessional positions. 6 custodial maintenance positions. 67 positions. The only possible good news you can say about that is those are not all people. We have retirements, we have resignations, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of people impacted by this, and it is brutal. That is the nature of $6.2 million on the staffing side. When you move to what that means, we're going to have increased class size. I'll talk about that more in a second. We lost our G&T program for the elementary schools. It's gone. Support staff. You heard this, para's gone. Instructional support staff, gone. So I just want to explain this again. What this means, and I've talked to Mr. Varela about this, we're usually extremely flexible with what students want. Students sign up for things, but they're not always right. They might want to make a change. And we open classes. We do what we have because we're about kids. We don't exist for ourselves. We exist for the students. Well, that's over. Pick the class. You guys all high school? Pick your classes and live with them. That's the way it's going to be. We're not opening up classes. We're not increasing the size of classes because they're already going to be too high. That's a whole change of environment for high school. We're going to have less support for discipline and HIB. That means if there's a situation, you might take you 48 hours to hear back. It's crazy. We try to do it same day, same school day when we can, which is most of the time. Now it might be 2 days before you hear back. So I'm going to talk about a second question in a little while, but right now we're reducing security. We have no choice. We can't pay for everything we want. Security is one of the main things we should not be touching, but we touched it. Coaches and advisors, that means less opportunities for kids. I will say the good news, not a lot here, but one of the areas we did, there's no new clubs. Every year, Mr. Varela will come from the high school and say, hey, we have kids that want to do X. If it ain't already happening, it ain't going to happen. Then all the B teams are cut in the high school. That's gone. The B teams are gone. However, I will say, in the middle school, I will say this is an example, though, of where we might be doing something better for less money. Because the middle school, along with Mr. Hendricks, came up with a plan to do intramurals instead of the B teams. So no traveling, which is expensive, but more kids will have an opportunity to do more things. So kudos to the middle school and to Mr. Hendricks for coming up with a way to reduce spending. Again, this is not a fortune. This is about, I think, CJ, about 25. So we saved about 25 grand, and we think we're going to be able to do more for kids at the same time. So that's really good. Overall, this is what it is right now. So we talk about a teacher and staff appreciation week. No one is feeling appreciated right now. No one walks around saying, yay. You can buy the donuts. We can say the nice things. But really what they're saying is, don't fire my friend. So here's what you're expecting in class size. We're going to be going up to 25, 27 in K-5. And I will tell you, that's bad. But our colleagues who have been in S2 for a year or two longer than we have, they're reporting elementary class size of almost 40. You say, ooh, bad. Next year, 25, 26, that will be South Brunswick's reality. We'll talk about that in a second as well. They're already there. All right, let me just go back over it, sorry. So middle school, I think it'll be around 25, which again is totally fine, but you're gonna have some sections that might go to 28 to 30. And the high school will have some classes over 30 next year. That's gonna happen. And that's about, 8 to 10 sections, staff cut there. The middle school, 15 core staff gone from the middle school. That's 3 full teams taken out of the 2 middle schools next year. 15. That's just the core teaching staff. Then there's other staff also that are on the chopping block. So I would not advise going into a middle school and expecting a lot of smiles right now. And you know what that does when kids are trying to learn? When the staff feels this way, it is not a good thing. Yet, the staff is putting on the game face and they go out there and they do it. They're either good fakers or they can somehow put this behind them. I don't know. But they're doing it. They're amazing people. More bad news. That's all I have. Lunch prices are going to increase. I don't know what they are going to be. Right now, Rajesh, you mentioned RFPs last meeting. As I shared with you, we've done our RFPs. We saved $100,000 on RFPing our insurance. And right now, we're looking and seeing which is the best deal for our lunch people. So once we nail that down, we'll know what the lunch prices will be. So you might not hear about that until the summer. Our pay-to-play is going up 20% per, and it's now going to be $300 to $350 for the family. And again, if we don't do these things right now, we're going to cut. It's cut or charge. That's pretty much the choice right now. We're not looking to cut. Activities, sports, extracurricular is the lifeblood of a school for many, many, many kids. It's paramount that that does not get hurt. But there are families where this is going to hurt. And that's just as upsetting. AP testing. So when you take an AP class, if you want to take the AP test, you were paying $105. Next year, you're paying $130. So it's an increase. But that did save us from having to charge to take an AP class, which was on the table. And one of our assistant principals, I'm not going to mention Jeff Ruman's name, saved us from that and came up with a better plan that helped us avoid charging to take an AP test, which is what we used to do. We're not doing that. But when you take the test, you're going to pay a little bit more. It's more manageable and more reasonable for kids and families. Middle school music bus. Now it's going up to, when I got here, it was $100. Now it's going to be $200 next year. Is that a lot of money? No, but it's like, what is that, 800, 900 kids?
Yes.
So, I mean, $25, 800, 900 kids, it adds up. It's money. And, you know, it's a great service. You're getting your actual bus stop to go there. So, I mean, it's a great service, but it's going to cost more now. I had the numbers up here in the last meeting incorrect. We currently charge $50. It's going to go to $80, so $40 per semester. Again, I don't know. There's some kids that might be paying this bill themselves. And it's charging to park. It's ridiculous. New fee, late bus fee. Currently, you get a late bus, it's free. We looked at it, figured out how much we could do and what would be reasonable. $50 if you're just doing a season, $100, there's 3 seasons, but $100 for the year. So we made it a bargain for the year. That was facetious and sarcastic. This has been asked for, and so we came up with the best price we could. It's $720 if you fall into the category to be able to be eligible for subscription busing. So $720 a year for a bus that you're not, getting legally entitled to is not that bad a deal. So that's what we're going to be able to do. Jill in transportation will be getting information out about that probably before the summer, hopefully, so people can make a decision. If you do it too early, people don't know yet. And the reality of this is you have to pay in full, non-refundable. So you have to leave it kind of the closer to let people figure out other options before they spend the money. I want to go over this because I think I freaked people out in the last meeting about this because I forgot a little bit of information. So who qualifies? And this is really an important distinction, which I thought was obvious, but it didn't work out that way. K-8 students who live 1 to 2 miles are eligible. And high school students who live 1.25 to 2.5 miles are eligible. If you already get a bus, you're going to basically keep your bus. So the people that live 3 miles, 4 miles away, they don't pay anything. We can't legally charge them even if we wanted to. That's the law. These 4 bullets, if you live in a hazardous route, even if we've determined it a hazardous route, even if it's within the miles, you already get a bus. So there's no charge. The board at this time has not elected to eliminate hazardous. They can. A Board of Education is not required to provide busing. But to give you an idea of what a hazardous route is, the most obvious one that we live with is Royal Oaks. You all know where Royal Oaks is off of Route 1? I'm looking at Laura Savino go, yep, I know. And she's like, don't you dare do it. Royal Oaks kids live on the northern side of Route 1, but go to Brunswick Acres, which is across Route 1. And it's within 2 miles. We legally do not have to provide those kids a bus. We could just say, parents, good luck. I'm not dealing with that first incident. I would hope the board doesn't want to, but at some point, I'm telling you, at some point, it might be out of our hands. Remember, I'm going to show you what next year looks like. As of right now, if you're hazardous, you continue with your bus. Students who live further, that means you'll live above the 2 miles, K-8, or above the 2.5 miles, 9-12, you still have your bus. Do not worry, you don't owe us any money. Students with IEP transportation accommodations in their IEPs, they maintain that, no issue, no charge. Students who are transported to a district program that isn't their home school, no charge, all the same. And the last comment that came straight from Jill, which is basically, Scott, she goes, Scott, just tell them, they have a bus, they got a bus, leave it alone. She actually just wanted the slide to say that. That would have been enough. They already get a bus, they keep a bus, that's it. But it's her birthday, so she's not here, she can't yell at me today being in the audience. That's the reality. That is subscription busing. Everyone who's eligible will receive all the opportunity and ample time to decide if this is what works for them, and we will take it from there. So, for people that live in South Brunswick that are watching or here tonight, this is what you need to know. This is the reality. We are looking at actually a 2.78% increase, which is above the 2%. And you're probably saying, well, you can't do that, Scott, it's a 2% cap. I'm going to show you why we can do that. We've just never been able to do it before, which is actually good news, but we are able to do it this round. So, for the average assessed home of around $200,000, a 2.78% increase will have a $48 annual. I was talking to some of my colleagues, and they were telling me about their taxes, and they were saying things like, well, it's $30. I was like, oh man, you guys are better than us. They didn't mean annually. What did they mean? Per month. On 2%. That's what they were dealing with there. We're very fortunate. We're very fortunate. I mentioned the ratables before. The ratables save us from having massive taxes. I can tell you, when I was in the superintendent in Millstone and we went up 2%, it was an impact because there's 0 ratables in Millstone. Everything you did had a hit on the taxes. Here, it's not the case. But let me explain the 0.78. Because there's something in the law that allows us for a health care waiver. The reality is we've never been able to use it because we've kept our health care so flat. We have an increase in health care next year of 3.5%. So if we look at this, we have a 3.5% increase in health care. We're like, wow, Scott, that's horrible. Why would you have an increase in health care? I know, because you built, what is it, a spa? Is that what it is, a spa, right? I think you said it was a spa. A I think, so we have a spa down in the basement. It's in the basement. You have to know the secret password to get into the spa. Then I believe there's a pool also, right? A pool. I don't know, I haven't found the pool yet. I'm still looking for the pool. I'm gonna find the pool. But there is a reality. We do have a health center for our staff. One of the smartest things out there in education right now. It's allowed us to stay at 3.5%, no increase last year, and a 3.5% this year. Now, 3.5%, I'd rather it be zero again, but it's not. The reason is healthcare goes up. If you're not sure of that, look at your own healthcare premium costs. They go up, they don't go down. This is the reality. So, on top of that, the state created, this is good for our staff, so I'm not complaining, it's just a reality. The state created, there used to be what's called Chapter 78. And Chapter 78 is when it became required for public school employees to pay into their health benefit contribution. Before Chapter 78, health benefits for educators were free. Now it became so, and it was a big hit. It was a lot of money when that happened. They now made a new rule called Chapter 44, which allows the employee to go into a cheaper plan for themselves, meaning their contribution is less than it was before on Chapter 78. That's fine, all good. It just has an impact to us because we now collect $1 million less in contributions from the staff. Say good, bad, or indifferent, it's just $1 million less to spend. That's how it plays out. So we have $1 million less from Chapter 44. Now, New Jersey, as a state, they've already announced that next year they're going to see double-digit increases. And one of the superintendents that is in the state health benefits plan told me he's been told it's 14 to 16% for next year. Last year, it was over 15%. So when we say we're at 3.5%, we're crushing it. And look at the national trend, is 8%. So the healthcare situation in our district has been a saving grace for us. It's allowed us to save a lot more money than we would have if we just stayed in the state health benefits plan or did something different and did not do all the things we've done, which I'm not going to get into too deep because I've done all that before. But this has allowed us to use a waiver, which is 0.78%, which is about $1 million. So that's already built into the budget information. So when I show you this slide, the $48 is already inclusive of that waiver, which the state gives us. Again, good and bad, but we never needed it before because we never increased the insurance enough to get the waiver. This year, 3.5% got us there. So this is probably one of the most important parts when you think about this is over the last 6 years, the average home has seen a reduction in their school tax of a cumulative $54 reduction. But that kind of follows suit with the slide I showed you about the valuation. That isn't because we spend less, it's because the valuation and the ratables eat up the money. So it helps them spread across all that extra tax because no one collects the extra tax, it just lowers everybody else's tax. And the other only good news I have tonight is next school year, not the coming, but the one after, 25-26. Remember I showed you that slide that talked about debt service? $5 million is off the books in 25-26. That's going to have a huge chunk of change off your taxes right off the bat. That's what happens. You just remove it, and it's no longer collected and no longer impacts your taxes. That's how that works. So you borrow the money, takes 20 years to pay it off, you'll have paid off the majority of the debt service at that time. You'll only have a small amount left, maybe about $1 million left of debt. That's amazing for a district this size to not have big debt, but we won't have it. So that will help reduce taxes. So again, that's just basically what it is. Your average assessed home will see a big decrease in their property taxes because of that $5 million. No matter what you do, even if we spend more, it still comes off. You don't get it. The $5 million, by the way, someone might think, well, Scott, take that $5 million and put it into your operating budget and buy more stuff, more staff, more this, more that. Nope. Completely separate entities. They do not overlap. This one is totally by itself. It cannot be used anywhere else. It is simply debt because, if you think why, we have that debt because the town voted for that debt. You can't then just keep spending it because they voted with a knowledge of when it would go away. So it's fair. It's a very reasonable, fair situation. So I want to talk to you about what's called the second question. It's called the second question because back in the day, your first question was the actual budget. Who remembers when you used to vote on the budget? That was the thing. So this was a second question. You had a budget, and then you had a second question, if you wanted one. We don't have a first question, but we're going to go right to a second question. We have two. I want to explain this to you. This is a little bit complicated, but I think I could try and make it understandable. So I start off by just explaining what a second question is. So I do this through, I have the questions, and I just wrote the answers. But what is it? It's a question that goes to the voters for approval. The board can set a question, but they cannot just do it. The town votes, not the township committee. Everyone who lives in the town votes. If they want this to happen, they vote yes. If they don't want it to happen, they vote no. If it votes yes, the district can never choose to spend the money somewhere else. In other words, we can't like pull one over on you. No shell game. If we say we want to buy, I'm going to go back to my purple crayons. We want to buy a purple crayon for every kid every year. We can't decide in 10 years from now we're not going to buy purple crayons anymore. If you voted for it, you get purple crayon every year. That's what you get. Now, if you don't vote for it, we can never do it. Never. Unless we put it out to vote and then it gets approved. When the high school was first put out to vote, it was a referendum. Barry, you remember this. When you put it out to vote, it failed. It did not pass. Meaning, when it failed, the district could not go forward and build the high school. Could not. So they went back. They probably determined why did it fail. They probably spoke to a lot of people, maybe did some surveys or something, and found out one of the issues was people didn't want the pool. Big mistake, by the way. Huge mistake. Big, big, big mistake. Would have been a great moneymaker. Big mistake. But they voted no. They took out some things, took out the pool, put it back to the voters at the next time they were allowed to legally, and the town voted yes, and they built the high school. That's the way it works. Can't do it. So I'm going to explain to you what our questions are. You have to think that way. Because it's a yes, we can't never stop doing it. A no, we can never choose to do it. That's how it works. That's the law. So this is important. Right now, before the night's over, I'm going to talk about some funding bills that are out there in the legislature right now. So what we're doing is we put this in as a placeholder. In other words, if somehow the district gets more money and we don't need to do this, we'll pull it. Because what we're not going to do, I can't imagine, is like double hit the community. At least Dave and I wouldn't recommend we double hit the community. If the board wants to do it, feel free to do it. But I don't think the board's going to want to do that either. That's not my impression of this board. So right now it's in there as a placeholder in case nothing good happens. Then we at least get to try and get these things into our budget. Okay? So again, if things change with funding, we will pull this off the ballot. It will not be there. If nothing changes, or almost nothing changes, we'll most likely leave it on. I'll talk more in a little bit about that. Why these questions? Well, because these are like some of the main issues that we want to make sure we have for kids. And we don't ever want to lose them. And coming up, if nothing changes, and next year we lose $8 million, which is what I'm going to show you, we will not be able to keep these things. And then the students will lose out huge. That's why they're on here for this, for right now. So what is the impact on these questions, which I'm going to share with you in a second? Fortunately, again, the impact is $23 each question. You're allowed to vote yes for one, no for the other, but you are definitely allowed to vote yes for both, just so you know. You can definitely do that. If you voted yes for both, you're looking at $46.50 plus the $48. You're still under $100, and that was one of the goals in doing this, was to keep things manageable. Keep things manageable. Let me go over what these things are. So the first question is a combination of things about security and opening our doors to the community and doing some other really good things for the district. So this question, number one, will provide for the security of our South Brunswick PD patrolling our schools. As you know, we currently have an SRO at the high school, and we have 2 other SROs. If this question is voted no, then we can't do that. We would not be allowed to pay for that, and they're gone. That's the way this works. If it's a yes, remember, we can't take the money and then go not have that and do something else with the money. We cannot do that. So if we get the money for this, that's what we're allowed to do, period. The next one is we'll be able to open our tennis courts and track for full use by South Brunswick residents, including nighttime. This has been a request. Okay, so think again. If this fails, we will not be allowed to open the tennis courts or track. Not be allowed. If it passes, we can do that. And the reason we want it in here, so that we can fund anything that comes along with this. Upkeep, all of it. The next part, this provides for facilities and rec department to use our facilities for free, meaning they will then not start overcharging their population for using their facilities. Adults use our facilities all summer and during the school year, and kids are in and out of these facilities every single day, Monday to Saturday. It costs us money. This will help make it so that we don't have to keep raising things. That's why that's on there. And the next one is we need someone to manage all that, so we would have someone who manages that, who makes sure our tennis courts are used properly, makes sure our track is used properly. Also, to keep trying to find more business. Keep trying to get more business so that we can make more revenue. But we need a person dedicated for that. Right now, that's a piece of someone's job, and it's not really generating any funding. And it's too much to deal with everything. So, but we would love to do that, but we can't right now. So that is part of question 1. That's all of question 1. If you vote for if question 1 passes, we will have 5 officers every day in our schools. We will be able to do all of those things. If this votes no, we will not allow to be paid for officers. We will not allow to be doing any of those things. Dave can't come to me next year and say, hey, let's hire a facilities manager, Scott. Nope, can't do it. Not legal. That's how it works. Question 2, one of the other main priorities is student mental health supports. Right now we have Bridge in the middle and the high school. They are working with Rutgers Behavioral Health. They help with our most needy students. We want to expand that. We can't. We can barely afford that at this time. Fortunately, that's still as of today, partially funded by the state. But that is threatened to be taken away from us every year. If they take that away from us, it's gone. It is gone. We will lose the ability to provide clinical support for our most needy students. So this one is basically just that. It's by itself. It's not cheap. It's about $900,000 to cover K-12. Right now we have 0 in K-5 and minimal in 6-8. We want a full program available for K-12 students. Hugely important, but I can't afford it. And that kills me to not be able to do these kind of things. So, question 1, question 2, it'll be on the ballot unless something changes and the board pulls it from the ballot. That's where we are. So here's the worst part of all of this. Because what if, yes, I chose red on purpose, what happens if nothing changes? And I don't care what the rhetoric on Facebook will say, because I know there's people in this audience tonight that will say junk and garbage all night because that's what they like to do. I could care less what they say. The only reality is funding. If there's no revenues, it doesn't matter. I could care less what people say. It's kind of humorous sometimes, though. It's minus $8 million. This is $6.2 million. And the best way I can describe this is if you took my arm and you shaved all the hair off the arm. I have some hair on my arm. You shave it off. Then you take one of those skin peelers, like in Silence of the Lambs. I know I'm getting a little crazy. And you start to peel some of the skin off my arm. Then you dig a little bit, take some of the blood. I know, but I want you to feel it. Then you do a few chops into the bone, just a few. That was the 6.2 million. 8 million, the skin is already gone. The blood's gone. All I have left is bone. It'll be $8 million of bone. That's next. That is the reality. There's nothing, as good as David is what he does, there's zero chance of us solving $8 million for the 25-26 school year if nothing changes. So I know no one wants new taxes, and that's a real argument. Say, listen, well, don't do it. Don't tax. Don't do it. Okay, don't tax. I'm good with that. And then don't expect to get the value of your house when you're done. Because when these schools are not what they are, good luck. So either pay a few $100 and keep the value of your house going the right direction, or let South Brunswick get a reputation with no sports, no music, no academic high programming. Good luck. Good luck. That's the difference. You either have house value or you pay a little more in taxes. The fact that we haven't paid the taxes should help, I hope. But that's our reality. That is next. Am I trying to scare you? Heck yeah. Because you need to be prepared for that if nothing changes. I don't know if this is good or bad news at this point. I've been talking about the legislation for a few months. I'm going to share, before I put up the slides, here's what I know. I'm going to give you my biggest update. On Thursday, the Senate, by the way, the Assembly has passed a bill that already will allow us some flexibility on the 2% cap and give us some of our money back at the same time from the state. The Senate has been dragging its feet. On Thursday, the Senate is finally going to hear the bill. Two bills. One bill on all the stuff I'm going to talk about, and a second bill which moves the date in which a school district can alter its budget. Right now, that date is basically tonight. So we wouldn't be able to do anything if they don't move the date, no matter what they do with the bill. The other part of the good news is on Monday, should the bill pass the Senate on Thursday, on Monday, it'll be up for a final vote. If it passes, it will have passed in the Senate and the Assembly. Now I need a volunteer. Who knows the last step of how a bill becomes a law? All right, Mr. Steller. Signed by the governor. Signed by the governor. Our hope is that the Senate and the Assembly has been working with the governor's office. We believe that's the case. And the bills will reflect what the governor will sign. In the best of all worlds, by the end of next week, we will have direction. It will be good direction or bad direction, but we need direction. Based upon that direction and the rules, we will then be able to make some decisions about a bunch of stuff that we've had to do so far. One of the pieces in that legislation is giving a district in our situation the ability to have flexibility in the 2% cap. What we've provided here is what the bill currently says might be possible for a district. In this scenario, if this is accurate, which we don't know, the numbers are accurate, but we don't know what the bill will finally say. The bill might say, no, you can't do anything with taxes. We'll just give you back some money. It might say that in the end. We don't know that. But that's the impact. Even if this district went to 10% and got $12 million, which would solve your this year and next year and the year after, you'd finally be in a place where we're not talking about money for a while. Sadly, though, with the 2% cap, you'll be back in it in about 5 or 6 years. Because it's inevitable. 2% will never be enough to manage the district, ever. But you'll have some cushion. Depending on what it says, a board may have the ability to, in its budget, adjust the taxes. So we feel it was important to tell our community, what if? If the legislation comes out, then the board can choose without a vote. This is important to understand. The way it's written right now is it's not a vote. That's the way the bill is currently written. That could change. I don't know. It might require a vote. That's the impact. Your third column is the impact. It's amazing to me that if the district went even over $10 million, it would only cost $240 a family. That's amazing to me. I mean, $240 is not nothing, of course, but that's amazing. That's how much money is in this town that is not being accessed. That's amazing. Still, that's still a lot of money for many people, and that is an important understanding. But that's just the math. To be very clear, this is not a law. This does not exist yet. Currently, the board cannot choose any of this. We went to 2.78. That's our number. That's what we are legally allowed to do right now, no more. If something changes in the bill, I advise you I'll put out something, but you'll be invited to listen to more of that, because I don't know if we're going to require to do another budget hearing. We just don't know what the rules will be yet. That keeps changing in the bill. But that's it. Let me show you what that looks like after 2 years, because who remembers what happens? Ricardo, you stay quiet this time. Who remembers what happens the second year related to taxes? Why? The second year, no matter what else happens, $5 million in taxes is gone. That has a big impact. Plus, the bill, anything I've read so far about the bill, it's a 1 year, meaning it's one time, period. That's it. So when you look at this, what David did, in each of those 7, 6, 5, 4, 3%, that second year shows what would happen the second year if we added that percentage in the first year to the budget, and then the $5 million comes off. What does it look like? So if you look at 4%, for example, we would be increasing our taxes by $4.8 million. And then for $86 for the average house. But the second year would be minus 13. Then the 2-year average also includes the minus 50. Well, the 2-year average is the combination of years 1 and 2. But the 8-year average from 2019 to 2026, 2018 to 2026, is also minus $56, because that's all you paid for 6 years is minus $56. So the reality is, even if the board increased to 6%, the total new spending over 8 years of taxation is $142, not $142 a year. So I gave you an example. If they went to 8%, $266 represents the total new money in taxes, cumulative, over 8 years, or an average of $33 a year for that 8-year period of time. That makes the district solvent. The town, at some point, is going to have to decide what it thinks, at some point. Those numbers are real. What isn't real is whether or not any of that is even possible. Because as of right now, there's nothing that gives the board the ability to do that. The question of, is that reasonable, will be seen differently by each person. So I can't tell you if it's reasonable or not. I can tell you I feel it's reasonable. Doesn't mean that you believe me or agree with me. This is an individual thought. But if the board is given the opportunity, they will be asked what's reasonable, and they will be able to make that decision. If it requires a vote, then each person will have that option. That is the way it will work, one of those two ways. And I don't know which way it will finally end. So, what do we do about all this? We've been invited to special hearings. We've been working directly with legislators. I got 2 calls on, what is today? Tuesday? I got 2 calls yesterday from both the Assembly and one from the Senate, telling me exactly what's happening right now. It's going to be on Thursday, vote on Monday in the Senate. Roy Fryman, he's your assemblyman here. He has been a champion of South Brunswick, big time. He has been a true godsend to South Brunswick. Now, of course, if you think that any level of taxation is not, then you're not going to be happy about that. But for the school to be able to hopefully function for the next 5 years, I would call him that. Andrew Zwicker, your senator, has been doing the same on his side. The Senate is moving now forward. And again, we're looking at Thursday in the Senate, followed by Monday in the Senate. If all that goes yes, according to Mr. Stella, we'll be waiting for the governor's signature to find out what do we have. That's what we're waiting for. As I said that, we've done all this. We've been testifying. I don't know if I'm testifying on Thursday, but I was asked to attend. I don't know if I'm going or not yet, but it's another opportunity. The advocacy group has done great. We sent 25,000 letters to the Senate. That was, I think, 2 weeks ago. And now it's coming on. So I give credit to all those people who did that work. And there's a person in the audience right now who created all of that. I forget her name. Hey, psst, Mark, what's Lisa's name? No.
Manganello.
Yes, Lisa Manganello, right there in the middle there. She's now blushing, but it's okay. We don't mind making Lisa blush. Lisa put all that together, has been a true advocate for this district. And sorry, Lisa, but you came to the meeting, so you were getting hit. Truly great. I think it was 25,000 letters, right? 25,000. We're also working with other districts that are in the same boat. I can tell you, as bad as we have it, there are places that are unbelievably far worse. As I shared, we have districts that are looking at almost 40 kids in elementary school classes. And we're not far away, which is the sad part. But seeing what they're going through is the scary part. Because this is not a place you want to buy a house with 40 kids in an elementary school class. It's just not. Those districts have already cut middle school sports completely. Not just made little alterations, cut it. Goodbye. Their club options, their sport options in the high school are minimum. Their class sizes are ridiculous. There are districts right now whose boards of education will fail the budget. They will fail tonight's vote. I hope this board doesn't do that, but they will fail their night's vote because they refuse to make the cuts. One of our districts in our group needs two of our districts actually need $30 million for next year. $30 million. One district is cutting 485 staff members. The other district isn't cutting. They've just decided no. We're not doing it. So what will happen is their board will vote it down, and then the county can do it. And I'm telling you, I'm doing the same thing. I'm not cutting $8 million next year. I'm not doing it. Someone else can do it. I'm not doing it. I already know. The $6.2 million was bad enough, but we survived. We'll survive it. We will not survive $8 million more. We just won't. So we could be one of those districts a year from now. I hope it's not. So let me give you some timeline. I think I shared with you already. It's been slow. And the thing about it being slow is that for the last 2 weeks, we've been firing people. If they would have moved their butts, pardon that, we wouldn't have had to go through all this if there was a way out. But they've been so slow, we've had no choice because we have statutory deadlines that we have to meet. May 15th, May 7th, statutory deadlines for us. And that's what's been happening. So their slowness, their inability to act for 5 years. Finally, they're at least acting, but 5 years of inaction. That's what we've been dealing with. So hopefully this month we'll at least know what is happening, what the rules are for taxation, if there are any rules for taxation, and what the state aid being returned will look like. That's what we need to know so we can make some difference, hopefully, be able to call back some of these people we've given horrible news to. Life-changing, life-altering news. The good thing is, I've heard over and over again, these legislators acknowledge the need for immediate. Just that one thing we struggle with is their definition of immediate is slightly different than our definition of immediate. Immediate for us was early April. Immediate for them seems to be the end of May. Big difference, unfortunately. So I put this up all the time. It's about just being together. And if you don't agree, don't agree. But if you don't understand, ask questions. That's what we would ask of you. And don't spread disinformation. It's the worst thing you could do. People that spread disinformation, what they're basically telling all of you is they don't like this town. Disagreeing doesn't say that. Lying says that. Purposeful lying says, I don't like this place. I don't care about kids. I don't care about any of you. The people that purposely spread disinformation don't care. I strongly ask everyone in this room and watching and anyone else in this community, disagree. Totally fine. Don't spread disinformation to try to get other people to believe a lie. That's the worst thing that you can do. And I ask each of you in this room, when you see it, call it out. I do. I call it out all the time. You see it, call it out. Because those people don't care about you. Madam Substitute President, it is time for Q&A. So, not the board yet.
Right.
We did that last time and it didn't go well, as you guys have a lot of questions.
We do.
We'd like to open it up for the community. I'm going to go sit down and I'll answer from there.
Okay.
People that do have questions, if you just come to this side of the room, and then feel free, and you don't have to write your name, you don't have to do it, you can just announce who your name is. And there isn't any real rule except for be fair, be honest, and ask questions. Clarifications or make statements, you can do either. Thank you.
Okay, so before we start asking questions, I just want to put this out for myself and the board. Scott and Dave have been, and their team, we can't forget their team, have worked ridiculously hard on this and ridiculously long on this. So please ask any question you want, but be fair when you come up here. Please keep that in your mind that for the last months, they've been eating, drinking, and thinking this budget. I gotta be honest, I'm a little tired of hearing it, but it's so important. And please keep that in mind when you come up here and ask questions. No slandering, because I'll stop you. So if you have any questions, please make your way over to the aisle. And no one really, all that great presentation, all those things. Okay, yay.
Hey, Laura, real quick. So just so everybody's aware, we will hold to the open public
3 minutes.
3 minutes of comment. And I do have a pre-registration. Is Shirdar Subramanian here? No? All right, he's a no-show. All right, so if anybody's here, anybody like to comment, please?
For the insurance waiver of the 0.78%, is that in addition to the possible 10%, or is that, it is in addition?
No, I understand the question, though.
Okay.
So it's a question we actually asked as well when they were doing this, when they asked us for feedback. I believe they're clarifying the answer to that question in the bill. The first editions of the bill were very unclear about that exact question, meaning if you do have a waiver, is it 2.78 plus whatever, or is 2.78 part of it? Is even the 2%, right, part of it, or is it what above it? I do believe it will include already the 2.78. So if they say you can go to 4%, it would leave us being able to go up like 1.22% is what that would be if they do it that way. If they don't do it that way and they go to 4%, you may be able to go 2.78 plus 4.
Okay. I have one more question.
You know what it is, Vanessa, is we keep asking for clarity, and really, and I call it the meat grinder, until this bill goes through if it goes through the meat grinder, we really just don't know what it's going to finally say. Board's been asking me the similar questions, like, Scott, what does it mean? I keep giving the same answer. I wish I knew exactly what it meant. What I do know is there are lots of people trying to help districts like ours, but I don't know the answer specifically to your question.
Okay.
But I do understand the question.
I do have one more question. So fast forward to the 14th, the day after the vote. If it passes and the governor ends up signing it, and then you can welcome your staff back, how are you going to get your staff back when they have a trust issue at that point, I would say, to what their future would actually hold in this district?
Same thing we brought up with them when they talked about the timeline. We tried to get them to do this before we had to get to where we are today, for that exact reason. We actually made statements like, once we tell someone, they're looking for a job. And when they get that job offer somewhere else, they're not coming back. And we've made that exact statement in testimony, saying that by the time delay they've caused, we might not be able to solve it all because of what they've done. So I have the same exact sentiment you have about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions?
John O'Sullivan, I have a question about the questions 1 and 2. Who will be, if we get to that, who will be paying for that? The township or the school board will be paying for it separately
What
to
it
pay for
is,
all that?
if you saw one of the slides I had up said it would cost the taxpayers the $23. It becomes a tax. It's a one-time tax that comes to the district in additional tax. That's what you'd be voting on. It becomes part of the school district budget after the fact, if it's passed.
So the total, what's the total?
The total, if both questions pass, and there's no other, like I said, John, if there's changes that happen that allow the board to do something and they choose to do it, as I shared, that was a placeholder in case that isn't possible.
Well, I'm asking if it
If it is
happened.
possible, it's $46 in taxes for the average assessed home,
Paid by the homeowner.
paid by the average assessed home.
So that means all citizens who pay taxes will be paying $46 once.
Well, there's an average, the $46 is
Well,
based.
okay.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
yeah.
It's $46 like any other tax. Like when we do the taxes, and I showed you $48 would be if we go to 2.78%, that means the average assessed home will have a tax increase of $48. For example, the last 6 years, if you had an average assessed home, your taxes for school tax have gone down $56.
Okay. Well, I'm used to, for voting,
Yeah.
it costs X amount of money from when I was on council, X amount of money to run the machines, the people.
Correct.
And then, there was a total and we knew.
I told you, that's what you would know. Those are worth $46 for both questions.
Sir, are you asking about the cost to actually hold the vote?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, the vote is being held on Election Day. There's no difference. It's the day of
I
Election
just
Day.
wanted, yes, thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
That- I was just
Nothing new on there, it's just already being done.
Okay. I
It becomes
just
part
wanted
of
to
that
make sure
ballot.
on that because it costs money. Everything we
does,
want to
it does.
do, this sounds like a great idea. We'll do $46 per household, great. No. It still costs money to get the bodies into the
Which
voting
is
booth.
why doing it on a day that they're already doing an election has no new cost.
Yes, I was the councilman that
I
pushed
know
to
you
get
did
it
that.
done
Yeah.
on voting day. Okay, so I know that. Thank you
got it.
very much.
You're welcome, John.
Next up.
Hello, my name is Rajesh Soni. So first of all, thank you, excellent presentation. This is more of a comment rather than a question. And again, it's more towards the board members rather than the administration here. So assuming the bill passed and you have the power to raise taxes without a vote, what I would appreciate is if you can share what are the other criterias you considered for raising X percentage of taxes. Again, I'm assuming the math is not as simple that you are in a hole of this number, I raised by this number and made it. So that would be really helpful to understand what are the criteria you considered, like the demographics, the condition of the town, the incomes, blah, 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 and what sort of study, assessment, research have you done? Have you taken any external help to come up with a number? Means, of course, you have the administration's input, but what have you done outside of that to get a little bit more neutral perspective and an objective opinion to come to that magical number? So something like that will be highly appreciated. It will be also very transparent from a process perspective. So if you can consider that and communicate, that would be really, really appreciated. In addition, in the same way, I think we get a lot of communication from the administration, and kudos to them. They keep us up to date. I think we're missing a opportunity where you are our representative from a community perspective, where board can start communicating a lot more often, more frequently on topics like this. So we would like to also hear your perspective. You know, we have been discussing and been acknowledged, and I'm sure there is work done like studying some of the strategic solutions where you can provide us what are the updates on those strategic solutions. Because as Scott kind of mentioned, right, we are right now 6.4 down, next 8, so there is no bright light unless you act right now and work towards it. So I think 2 points, a little bit more understanding and a communication from a board perspective, and also a little bit more visibility on how you came across this number apart from the administration input. So that should be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Hi, everyone. Liz Urechko. I want to first thank the administrative staff for the very nice recognition earlier for the PTO co-presidents. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank Scott in particular because he has kept us up to date on all things budget related since the beginning of the year. And I mean, blood, sweat, and tears is an understatement. So thank you for all of your support, because we know this was, you know, what you've endured is not was not an easy decision making at all. And so we thank you for your leadership. I do have one question around the second questions. Are those second questions considered final at this point? And if so, do you see any risk to keeping the community services and the security together in question 1, given that there is a relatively high impact to a no response on that question? Thank you.
Yeah, so that was actually a conversation last meeting, exactly that, which was, do you do one question with all 3 of them? Do you do 3 questions with each one separate? It's kind of a toss-up. We did speak to some people that have done these before for some suggestions on how to basically approach it. We did approach it in this way. We could, honestly, we could change it and swap them out, and that's still possible. We would just have to make that decision, assuming there's a second chance for our budget work, which I do believe that will happen. I don't know what the second chance will allow, but I do believe that will happen. That doesn't seem to have too much trouble in the legislation. At that point, we'll be able to do what you're talking about and really take a better look to see that, because you're right. I mean, the board at the last meeting had this exact conversation. Is it 1, 2, or 3? And I can't tell you it's better to do 1, 2, or 3. I can't tell you for sure, but that's a legitimate question, and just know it's all part of what's going on. So thank you for that, and thank you for the kind words.
Next, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Megan Iannello. Regarding the question, we're just sitting over there talking. Obviously, mental health of our students is most important, but we also feel security is most important. Is there a way to tie those 2 together and then put the recreation side, the tennis courts, all that stuff? Because at this point, there were options given for those, and people didn't take us up on those. So put the SRO and the mental health together. And that way, I think that's the bigger thing that all of us care about.
Thank you. They're not asking.
Hi, Amanda Auerbach. You spoke to the staffing impact for the budget cuts. You said that there were 67 total positions that weren't necessarily people that were eliminated for this. Would you be able to speak to, out of that 67, the number of actual people that were involved in that number? And would you also be able to speak to the average length of service of those people within the district? Are they mostly non-tenured teachers who have spent 4 years or less in the district are these people that have spent 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years in our district.
Kim might have to help me with that. I'm not sure I have that in front of me. If you know the exact number of staff. The second part I can answer. I think the answer is around 30. The first question, it's about 30 actual humans. And as you know, it's not only the non-tenured stuff. We do have 2 staff members that have been here quite a long time that are being what's called RIF, reduction in force, due to that position being cut. And there's nothing else we can do to solve for those 2 individuals. The majority of people being cut on the teachers are non-tenured staff, and other positions, it depends on which position, but most still are on the newer side.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 30?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was about 30 as well. And that 30, it represents all different, like all from administration to paraprofessionals to teachers to maintenance and custodian workers. It's everybody. And the reason it's not 67 is there's something called attrition, which is when someone retires or someone resigns, or there's a way to you know, kind of restructure. That saved a bunch of jobs, but the 67 positions are significant.
Hi, Ricardo Stella. My question is on the second question. Would that be included as part of the operating budget for 25-26 if they pass?
So the second question is part of this budget. If it passes, it's permanent, meaning, like I said, whatever is in a second question, if it's voted yes, it stays in the budget permanently. The district can never choose to remove it without going back out to the voters for a vote, saying, we no longer want purple crayons. Would you mind if we stop buying the purple crayons? So if it was the security question, and let's say, listening to the group, it was separate, just security by itself, and the town said yes, the district can never choose to spend that amount of money anywhere else.
It would be available in the 24-25 budget year.
And then everyone after.
So I guess my second question that goes along with that, if nothing changes for 25-26 with the 8 million being cut, due to the fact that we would be allocating operational budget money to that second question idea that we already passed, that would be more things that would have to be cut in other places?
Not exactly, because what you've done is you've raised the money specifically for that. So if it's a yes, we collect the money, and that money is collected every year because it just becomes part of the taxes. And then it's there, but it's earmarked. But it's not that we have to use other money that was earmarked for something else to cover those. It just means that budgeted money is newly collected and remains in that account.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate what you've done. I've been in your position myself, nothing this large. I spent 35 years in the banking industry, which has been absolutely slaughtered. So I know bad morale. We all just have to live with it because there's no way around it, all right? But I'm glad I'm not in your position. I retired and I never have to do it again. But I did have to do it. So I can appreciate the heaviness. Sorry?
We are going to ask that you state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert Williams.
So we can have you on record.
Robert Williams.
Perfect, thank you.
Anyway, fortunately though, it's not 67 people, it's 67 positions, it's only 30. I usually had to get rid of 67 people, so there's a big difference. The question I have though is this. It's more of a statement. I saw last week, or I should say 2 weeks ago, people immediately went to the 10% option, all right? I remember when the 2% option came into play, it was because taxes were going up astronomically, and nobody could tolerate it anymore. It seems as though it's almost being stomped on now by our legislature, saying we're doing a take back. It was only a joke. We never meant the 2%. I know it's very hard to live within budget, especially when we have Bidenomics and the inflation rates going through the roof. But the thing is, inflation's not going away. It's going to continue. And there probably will be a recession next year. So you might want to incorporate that into some of the thinking. But I wish I could give you an answer. I just don't. But I can also see this, you have other expenses too. All-day kindergarten, right? Or, no, nursery school.
Fortunately, that is not costing the taxpayers any money in this town.
Well, not yet, but,
Well,
I mean,
it's
because
a-
when you really add it up, those two questions you have are $50, all right, for a $200,000 house. For most people, it's going to be double that. If you go with the 10% option, that's going to be $250, but really double that because most assessed value is higher than $200,000. I mean, we're talking almost $1,000 right off the bat. So just to bear in mind, this isn't going to be small. And the other question is this: with the two questions that we have, that's $26 each. Will then that now increase 2% per year?
It becomes part of the budget, so yes.
So yes, it will be. So it's not going to stay at that. All right. Okay. Anyway, I can appreciate it. I know it's a hard job. All
Thanks,
right.
Robert.
But I just wanted to make a couple observations because 2%, we don't want another tax rebellion. I mean, the cut will be horrible. Oh, and also, I was a baby boomer. All right. My average class was probably 30, and we still got educated. So, all right, just an observation. Thank you for your time.
Mark Lifland, South Brunswick Education Association President. Last time we talked, I had mentioned that I appreciated you including in your discussion the teachers and the impact that it has on them. I just have a question for you. In the cuts, I was wondering whether or not there were any cuts made at the central office level. It'd be like a director or someone above. I didn't see anything in there that indicated that, but maybe I didn't understand the slide correctly.
No, right now there are not.
What was the thinking behind that decision?
The problem we have is the state keeps adding all of this workload that has to be addressed. And as we continue to look at how to best manage that, it just becomes more and more. Every year it seems more and more and more and more. And we did go through all those iterations to determine what could we do there. We didn't do those cuts. We did other cuts in the BHL, but not that.
Any other questions from the public? Comments?
Can I go again? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Lisa would say no, but it'll be nice.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if there was a rule, but thank you for again allowing, again, Rajesh Soni. So again, this is more of a general observation, and I don't know, maybe even the community can chime in. While it sounds good and board has now the power, I just feel boards are being made the scapegoat here, personally. I don't think,
We feel that way too.
or let me not say it all, but many of you wouldn't have signed up for this volunteer service if you had to make township level taxation decision. So senators, assemblymen, they have not raised any taxes. They have just provided the option. Scott, administration over here, he has not done anything. He is just saying that we are in a hole. It is all onto the board to be the scapegoats or heroes or get recognition by raising taxes, which sounds very funny, right? Again, you all come in, you're all great people. You all come in from different parts of life, different sets of skill set, different experience, and now all of a sudden, you have to decide a real serious decision of raising taxes for a township. I am really, I feel your pain. But I don't know if you guys are considering, if you are considering getting some additional help from outside, hiring somebody to get you make that decision. I know it will cost, but you guys may want to kind of consider how can you utilize external service to get to a more better, educated, responsible decision. Because otherwise, it's really hard. And again, going by accounting, numbers, laws, this is, again, I know it's a voluntary service, it's not your day job. It's asking for a lot from you guys, and you guys are being made scapegoat over here. So you do good, you damn if you do, you damn if you don't. I really feel bad for your situation. That's only my observation over here. Thank you again.
I'm going to respond to that, Scott. Okay, you're right. All of a sudden we went, oh, great. It's up to 9 of us to decide if we're raising taxes. And we do have a very diverse background here on the Board of Education. We have people that live in the most expensive homes in South Brunswick and some that live in the not most expensive home in South Brunswick. We have liberals, we have conservatives, we have Christians, we have Jews, we have Hindu. We represent the diversity in this township from the people that voted us in this township. We do know that we're put in a position where we're like, okay, now we have to make this. I'm going to speak a little bit for our president, Lisa. I know Lisa taps into so many other presidents of the boards, and she gets information. What are you guys doing there? You're losing this much money. What is your board saying about that? What kind of research have you done about that? So Lisa definitely has her cohorts with presidents from different districts and shares that information with us. I personally, this is coming from Laura, believe that strong leadership surrounds themselves with people who enhance their weaknesses. Well, we have Dave, and Dave is amazing when it comes to numbers. And even though I know we count on them, you know, and you say, what is the board, how they research, we pick their brain constantly. Well, what happened if this, and what happened if that? And if we have to go up this much, what are we losing? If we don't go up this much, what can we save? So we're looking at, if we don't raise it this much, if we don't go up to 10%, because I was one of those people that said, okay, if we're going to be in this situation next year, why are we messing with this? Why are we going to play with this? Let's just bite the bullet, take it now. If you want good, you've got to pay for it. That is just reality. And I grew up in South Brunswick. I went to Constable. I went to Crossroads. I went to the high school. My kids went through all the schools. And now I got grandkids in Brunswick Acres. So I'm well invested in this township. And I loved raising my kids here and now my grandkids. And one of the big reasons was the school district. If I want good, I'm going to pay for good. So we do tap into Dave and Scott a lot and ask them questions. I know personally I challenge them a lot on this. I am also in education, so I speak with people who, well, what's your district doing? And how's your district handling? I just had a conversation at about 3 o'clock today in my office that I was coming to board meeting. We're voting on the budget. We're going to be in a deficit. And one of my colleagues was telling me how we are too. Well, what are you guys doing about it? So she showed me some of her stuff. So we do take this serious. Last presentation, and you even had the slide, I think, up here, that if we raise it 4%, this will happen. If we raise it 6%, this will happen. So we are asking lots of questions about that. And you know what? The reality is, if we would have read our fine print when we ran for the Board of Education, there was a slight possibility that we would get caught up in this. And we are. So here we are. And we took this on. So now we're going to do our best to educate ourselves on how to keep the quality education that we have here. Again, being in education, I also see when we don't have a sports program, how many children are left out. When we don't have that morning music program, how many kids don't want to come to school? Like, I see it firsthand. When we have too many kids in a class, in my one building, we have a lot of bilingual kids. There's 27 kids in a bilingual class. 27 7-year-olds, to give them the quality education that they deserve. It's got to be super person in that classroom. We don't want that challenge to be up for South Brunswick. In order for that to happen, we're going to have to make that tough decision. So we talk about it amongst ourselves, and we, yeah, I just said, and last board meeting, it was a big discussion, like I said, yeah, I said that, Dr. Raj.
No, the number we are comfortable.
Oh, you were here the last board meeting when we went back and forth. Are you comfortable with 5%? Are you comfortable with 6%? So we kind of took a quasi vote, if you want, what would be comfortable with, depending on how much money the taxpayers would have to pay and how much services we would have or we wouldn't have. Then Dave and Scott got that number and developed based on that. So we also are well aware of the fact that the government took our money from us and now is allowing us the privilege of raising our taxes to give them more money. You know, we're aware of that fact, that that's the position that we're put in right now. But you guys all live in South Brunswick, work in South Brunswick, know what an amazing place it is, and yeah, that costs. As far as looking at the demographics, I know that Ms. Ferrara last meeting said, yeah, I'm thinking about these people that are, you know, living in the trailer parks and that are struggling there. And, you know, so she was really concerned about that, brought up those numbers. And we know that there's people that are living in really big houses, but if still, who knows, or, you know, have their fair share of bills. We're considering all that. So, but thank you for saying you want to hear from the board, because we take this serious, and we might not be the spokespeople up here all the time. It is, you know, Mr. Feder and sometimes Dave and Lisa, but we are behind the scenes questioning this, and it is not a fly-by-night. It is not like, well, yeah, let's vote yes, or let's vote no. It's not that at all. So, okay. Okay, so now that I said that, I will put out comments and questions to the board. Ms. Ferrara.
I just have a question for the last person that came to the podium.
No.
This is not a question for the public.
No.
Not a question for the board to ask the public.
It's it, yeah.
You have a question for,
Oh,
Budget.
okay, thank you very much.
For
Questions
Scott
on the
or
budget.
Dave, that's
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, after the meeting, yes. So does the board. You go ahead, Barry.
So I have a couple comments and maybe a question. So the public understand this is something that's been going on quite a while. We had a township budget committee with many members that have met several times. We had township budget meetings at various schools at various times that Scott did presentations. He and Lisa have gone to the legislature to speak to the budget committees and the education committees. We have spoken to legislators and such. I sit on the New Jersey School Board Legislative Committee. The committee as a whole and myself have spoken to many legislators that have come to our meetings. So this is nothing new, okay? So going to some of the comments that were made in the audience, okay? Originally, the budgets were voted on by the public. They used to have them in April. It changed where they thought it would be, according to what John was saying, less expensive. So they moved it to a November meeting. But what it did is it took away the vote from the public to us. And that's basically what they did. So we've known as board members that the buck stops here all the time. The problem is, and continues to be the problem, is the formula. They omitted it even in the assembly vote. People on the floor, legislators from other districts, admitted it's the formula. Well, you can't change the formula overnight. They're looking at, because the formula technically is done, so they have to come up with another formula that works, because this formula doesn't. You have districts getting ridiculous amount of money, and you have districts in, and Scott said it, in worse condition than us, almost to the point that they are bankrupt. They took away the right to loan, and then they kind of put it back, and so they don't, the legislators don't know what to do with it. We've been blessed with 3 really good legislators. You forgot Michelle Drulis, too, by the way. And she's done a super job with Roy. So we can only hope that we get enough senators to vote on this bill next week. That's the biggest hope. But we have to look at the reality right now. And one of the realities is, well, we kept saying, I know at all levels, kept saying, well, we have a timetable. We have to do this by a certain time. Oh, we know that. But none of the bills that went through, none of the discussions that went through, until now, until the new bill for maybe next week, did they discuss moving that. So the smart thing would have been done is to move it already. That didn't happen. So the other thing, too, is that even with the vote on the budget, we had a bad year in 2010. 2010, the governor at that time went into our budget and every budget in the state and plucked out what was called free balance. What is called free balance? And he took it. So he took our $6 million that was in there to be used for all kinds of stuff and took it. We had budget meetings. We did things that Scott spoke about. We used to have more sports at middle school level. We took that away. We took a lot of the B teams in middle school away already. Okay, we kept some of them. If you have a child or you go to games or whatever at a middle school level, you will see us play teams and travel all over the state, because there are, from 2010, a lot of schools that don't have sports. So we're driving all over the place to play. So a lot of teams in our conference already did that in 2010. So I feel as a longtime board member that our staff, starting with Scott and David, our staff, the young ladies on the other side that are our assistant soups, have done an unreal job. There's staff in the audience that continue to do their jobs and do an unreal job. And that's what makes South Brunswick great, okay? So we'll continue to work to make South Brunswick great. And I hear you, John. I understand where you're coming from, okay? But we don't have a choice at this point. They're not giving us a choice.
So,
If
Dr.
we don't
Raj?
do A, B, C, and D, we're in trouble.
Okay, Mr. Nathanson, we're going to move on here. Thank you.
Okay.
And let's, just so we could move along for the evening, could we have board questions on the budget? specifically if there's questions on the budget.
Budget, yeah.
Let's answer those
Yeah, that's
first.
what we're
Thank
doing.
you.
Yeah, just budget question. Dr. Raj,
So,
oh, you mic.
so on the staffing impact, there are SPED teachers and specialists also involved. So I just wanted to know if they're actual people or positions. I remember the time into 2020 or 21 where, you know, there was such a difficulty filling up such positions, and I can't believe we are here.
Did you ask if the 67 are positions or people?
The SPED teachers and, you know, specialists, CST teams, and
Yeah.
are there bodies or are they positions that are just been eliminated, or a combination?
Probably a combination.
Combination.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad because it was a struggle to fill up positions not long ago. And there is also a nurse that's been eliminated. Does that mean nurse?
Preschool, that comes out of the preschool funding.
Oh, okay. So we will not have a nurse in that building anymore.
We still have a nurse operating, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. It's just accounting.
It's a reshuffling using resources to be able to manage that without.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question, by when will the language be finalized? Will it be after the bills and after the...
Language for?
Second question.
So, right now, the language
That's what
will
it
be
is?
in, but we have until the 14th.
14th?
Dave, right?
Okay.
To the 14th. So there are some suggestions by some members to, you know, relook at that, which we have the ability to do that until the 14th.
14th of May.
And by the 14th of May, we may know other information also, which may
bill.
make it for naught.
Mhm.
But we will need to make a decision by the 14th.
By the 14th, okay. And the part where it says facilities manager, will the facilities manager also, what is the intention? I mean, will it include, say, managing the rentals for our facilities, auditorium?
Correct, managing all the rentals, trying to increase rentals, rec, managing all the usage of all the facilities
facilities.
on the rental side, not the condition or the. that's-
Yeah.
that-
Essentially, full-fledged
A person to try
replacement
and
of
help
Facilitron.
raise funding and at the same time make sure everything that's happening is being done in a way that keeps the district safe.
Then we won't need Facilitron anymore.
I can't answer that. I just can say that right now that's the plan, is to have someone there.
Okay. And I know I ask this question every time, but are there any talks of, you know, reforming the formula itself? Because this is supposed to be the last year, and the nightmare that we just saw for the next year,
So
it's not
the
happening.
conversation has happened, started happening. The Senate invited us to a meeting to discuss the formula, so I testified on the formula itself. For example, one of the challenges with the formula is it takes enrollment and uses a six-year average.
Yeah, moving average, yeah.
But the wealth factors is an annual,
Yeah.
which is crushing districts like us. So we've given a bunch of suggestions, and we haven't heard anything since that meeting. So hopefully that will take place. I have no hope that it will take place before the next budget season. I just don't see that happening with the legislation. But we can hope, but I'm not going to put my eggs in that basket.
So one comment, this experience has been very disillusioning to me on a personal level. Actually, as board members, we don't get a lot to say because of all the policies typically are mandated by the state. And to be making a very unpopular decision, you know, itself is not a comfortable position for me. And more than anything else, the disillusionment also stems from the fact that, you know, government is supposed to help us. But perhaps the founding fathers were right in not being so hopeful about big government. So it's been a personal journey for me at how I look at things, and I'm quite disillusioned.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. Anybody else?
Scott, we're on the budget, we're approving $946,000 roughly for the healthcare waiver. Can you just explain the healthcare waiver to me a little bit?
So the healthcare waiver becomes available when you have an increase in your healthcare. So the reason we haven't accessed it prior years is we haven't had increases in our healthcare that have risen to the point of qualifying for the health waiver. So in this,
But you said that you gave employees the right to choose a lesser,
no, I said the state created a law that gave
That gave
employees in the state the right to choose.
now, did our expenses go up even with that choice?
The
Availability?
contribution went down. It's not that expenses went up, contributions went down. So contributions were part of what paid for healthcare. So when contributions go down,
This is the board specifically, the costs that went up.
no,
for
so
the
I'll
board.
try again.
Yeah.
We used to collect 5 million,
Yes,
now we collect 4 million.
so you have a waiver opportunity to make up the difference. Is
We have a waiver to make up differences and increases associated with healthcare. Like any healthcare, the cost of a claim is more than it was a year ago. The cost of healthcare is more than it was a year ago in the world, not just in South Brunswick.
Okay.
We incur those costs. On top of that, over since Chapter 44, our contributions have dropped by $1 million.
So our new healthcare center was supposed to provide some kind of relief in.
Yeah, so let me go back to the slide to show you the relief it has provided as one of the factors. It's not the only factor. So the state is seeing double-digit increases, okay, in healthcare costs. So if we were paying the state for our healthcare, we would right now, last year, we would have had a 15% increase, or about $4 million. This year, we'd have another $4 million increase. The whole of 6.2 million would be closer to 10 million, okay? The national average is an 8% increase in healthcare. Our increase is 3.5%. You can attribute it to anything you like, but it's not 8% and it's not 15%.
Okay, so my question is, you're utilizing the waiver because our rates have gone up.
It's not rates, it's
There's two pieces to your healthcare line. There's what you pay out in claims and what you collect with regards to contributions. Because of the plans that we offer now that the state requires us to offer, the contributions are less. Contributions offset the expenses.
The claims.
Right, the claims, or the claims. So when your revenue goes down, your expenses, even if they stay the same, become more expensive because you're not bringing in any more revenue, as much revenue as you have in the past.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Got it.
And I just have a couple comments or clarifications, I should say. So if we do get the second question, that's in the November election.
Yes.
That's where we'll see it. Okay. Tonight, we're voting on an increase of 2.78%.
Yes.
Correct. So let's say that everything goes the way you explained, and hallelujah, in 2 weeks to let us spend our money and raise the cap. Then how is that going to look for us? How do we?
We don't know the rules yet
Okay.
of the process. What'll happen is the legislations pass, like, you have to now teach about water filtration.
Okay.
But the legislators might say that, but they don't tell districts how to do it. The DOE then gets involved and creates systems.
Okay.
So that's what happens.
So we might not know if we are going to get an increase in taxes for.
We might know as early as next week.
Okay. So I do have this question. So when we were looking at the slide and you said like 10%, the average income for 10% would be $390.75 over an 8-year span. That's from 2018 to 2026.
To 26.
Is that going to be retro? Are we going to get hit with that big?
No.
Okay, because I'm looking at that going, oh.
No.
That's like major. So what would it look like in the increase for the average tax? Because when I average that, I'm going, that's over $3,000 I'm getting hit with.
No, so I put up a slide that showed you the average was $33. At 8%, the average was $33 a year for 8 years.
So it's not retro, though? We're not going back?
Well, you
to-
can't go back on collect taxes from
Yeah,
8 years ago.
Just making sure. Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
no.
'Cause- All right, good. Okay. Anybody else? Any more questions? Okay, we are going to close that portion. And our next, thank you so much, you two. Thank you so much for all your hard work. That's a lot of hard work, a lot of stress. Next order of business is the board committee and liaison report. Ms. Khan, anything from policy?
We have not had a meeting since the last board meeting, so there are no updates at this time.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell, finances.
I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Nathanson, operations or shared services.
Yeah, I have nothing to report at this time.
On education, we haven't met, so no committees because everything's been budget. Everything's been budget. Any liaison reports? Here? Okay, Dr. Raj?
So Ms. Karthik is not here, but she's the high school liaison. So I'm taking this opportunity to report on a show, over the past week. There was this show, Mamma Mia, and it was awesome. I couldn't believe that it was a bunch of high schoolers. It was as if we were watching a Broadway show or something. So it was really good. Kudos to everybody involved, and congratulations to the kids and the families and the teams.
It's awesome. Great. Okay, our next public comments on agenda items are, you are Mr. Mitchell, sorry.
I'm going to add on to what
Okay.
Dr. Raj shared about Mamma Mia. In addition to that, I was honored to have our a guest with us, the president of the New Brunswick Board of Education. Was with us on last Thursday to come and was able to watch, and she enjoyed herself thoroughly. Just want you all to know, and
That's
just had to mention that because
That's
we
great.
were able to go. Some of us
Yeah,
were able
we
to go
went
and
to
support
New
New
Brun-
Brunswick's play. It was, what was the name of it again?
Your good man, Charlie
Yes,
Brown.
exactly.
We visited
And
New
so-
Brunswick's high school's play.
So
As a
we
board.
returned. They returned the favor.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So just want you all to know that.
Awesome. Well, tell them thank you so much for visiting us.
I shall.
We appreciate that.
So, people in the public and at home and the board didn't realize Catherine Oliver was here. And like normal, she ducks out before she can receive her award, okay? So I need to give kudos to Catherine. She's in her 19th year as head, the person that runs the PTO President's Council as the coordinator.
She left.
She is freaking amazing, and she did duck out. She came in, said hello to her PTO board members, and then ducked out and took off. So I have to do kudos to Catherine. So.
Well, pass our thanks along to her, please. Yeah, and all her hard work. Appreciate that. Okay, any more comments? All righty, then let's move on to the next public comments on agenda items only. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of Policy 0167, which governs this portion of the meeting, are available to the public at the auditorium entrance, online, or by contacting the board office. To permit the fair and orderly expression of comments, we ask that the participants be recognized by the presiding officer and preface comments by announcing his or her name, place of residence, and group affiliation if appropriate, and by completing the sign-in sheet. Please print legibly, or we will be unable to document your name for the permanent record. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic. Mr. Pulowski will indicate when you have 15 seconds remaining. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members. No discussion between a participant and respondent shall extend the 3-minute time limit. It is our plan to listen to each member of the public. Once all questions and comments for all members of the public are made, the Board of Education may respond or respond via email in the most timely and efficient manner available. All questions and comments made will be noted. The first public comment is for consent agenda items only. There will be a second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. Mr. Pulowski, do we have anybody pre-registered?
I have Sirdar Subramanian. I don't believe he's here. He wasn't here earlier, so.
No, so he's not here.
He's
Okay.
not here.
Are there any audience members who wish to make a public comment on agenda items only? Okay, moving on, we will close this portion of public comment. Next order of business is old business. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. New business, seeing none, we will move on. Next order of business is the consent agenda review by Mr. Pulowski.
Our consent agenda this evening is pretty brief. We have the typical bills list, acceptance of a donation, business board related motions. We have a purchase over the bid limit for diesel fuel for our school buses. We have an award for our health benefits broker, Integrity Health, who's been our broker for the past 8 years since I've been here, has been renewed. We're renaming we all put out an RFP for renaming naming rights for the facilities at the high school. We didn't receive any proposals for that RFP, so we are pulling that down. We have an adoption of the school district budget. You see the total base budget of $170,287,768 and a local tax levy of $130,623,411, which is inclusive of a health benefits waiver in the amount of $946,100. We have a school bus advertising renewal. We'll also have our travel reimbursements. We have our student field trips, our harassment, intimidation, bullying reports. We have some out-of-district placements and some in-district tuitions for the 24-25 school year, and we're approving a preschool education program contract, which was a late addition, but needs to be done as that contract is due the next week. And that's your consent agenda.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pulowski? You have questions?
Yeah. So just so that there is no misinformation, on the social media and on the internet, 1.5, the health benefits broker. Could you please clarify? It is not the health center, but it's even though they share the same name, similar name.
No, our health benefits broker, what they do is.
She's saying that both names are Integrity.
Yes, different companies, completely different companies. One's Integrity Consulting, and one is Integrity Health Partnerships for our health center. So they're two very different organizations.
Two different organizations doing two different.
Very different jobs.
Jobs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions? Can I have a motion for the consent agenda? Mr. Mitchell, second.
Second.
Mr. Raj?
That was Mr. Nathanson.
Mr. Raja. Mr. Raja. Yeah, Raja said it.
Oh, right, Raj.
Mr. Raja.
Julie Ferrara.
Accept.
Ms. Laura Hernandez.
Yes.
Ms. Alicia Khan.
Yes.
Mr. Raja Krishna.
Yes.
Mr. Mike Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Yes.
Dr. Smita Raj.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So be it. Okay, public comments. This is the second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. You were reminded of the previous statement made regarding public comment rules of policy 0167. Again, at the podium, state your name, Please spell your name and announce your place of residence and/or your group affiliation. Complete the sign-in sheet, and you are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any members pre-registered? Okay, with no one pre-registered, we have anybody in the audience that would like to come up and ask a question, make a comment on any matter? Okay. There are no comments or questions, so we will close this portion of public comments. Please note that the next scheduled Board of Education meeting is set for Thursday, May 30th, 2024. We will be moving on to executive session. Please remain seated until I am finished. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of South Brunswick hereby moves into an executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10-4-6 through 10-4-21, to discuss the following: student matters. Be it further resolved that discussion conducted in the executive session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the matters have been resolved. Formal action may be taken at any meeting. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn to the executive session to discuss? So move, Dr. Raj. Second, Ms. Ferrara. Okay, so moved. Good night, South Brunswick. Have an awesome night.